Welcome to the Humourology Podcast with me, Paul Barros. This is where we explore the art of humour in business and life. My guest today is a multi-award-winning British director, writer, comedian and actor who has made a lasting impact on theatre and comedy. After studying history at Oxford and training under the renowned clown Philippe Gaulier, he co-founded the Olivier Award-winning double act The Right Size, known for its inventive blend of physical comedy and theatrical storytelling. His breakthrough came with the play What I Wrote, a tribute to Morecambe and Wise, which became a West End hit and earned a Tony nomination. As a director, he brought his comedic expertise to productions such as The Ladykillers, Jeeves and Wooster in Perfect Nonsense, and most recently, the highly anticipated stage adaptation of Dr. Strangelove, starring Steve Coogan. His work continues to entertain and innovate, bringing classic and contemporary stories to the stage with style and humour. Sean Foley, welcome to the Humourology Podcast.
Wow, I mean, when you put it all like that, it sounds quite good.
It's not a bad career, is it, Sean? When you put it all together.
So far.
Well, and
it could taper off badly. This is the thing.
I somehow doubt that because you keep going from strength to strength. But I want to go back a step because I want to know where you came from. You grew up in Cleethorpes in Lincolnshire. I don't know much about your family, but was humour valued in it?
I think humour was valued. I didn't actually completely grow up in Cleethorpes in Lincolnshire. For a start, where is Cleethorpes in Lincolnshire? It's on the coast in Lincolnshire. I lived there until I was 2, and then I moved. And then, of course, my parents had to move as well with me. So then we moved. Basically, I moved around quite a lot. I lived in 7 different places before I was 12, 13-ish. So we were sort of moving around a lot. And I don't know whether that certainly had an effect. How could it not have an effect on a childhood, on a person? But maybe the requirement, say, to sort of constantly be in new places and constantly be trying to make your mark in a new class or whatever it is, was helpful in later life in becoming. I mean, in fact, weirdly, I never really became, the sort of classic class clown or anything like that. I was sort of quite serious in a way. But at home there was definitely an understanding of, jokes certainly weren't frowned on.
So, I mean, you said you were quite serious. I mean, was that seriousness shy or was it just...
Yeah, I think it was more shyness, yeah. In fact, as I've gone along in life, and certainly in theatre and, the bits in TV and film I've done, and certainly meeting performers of all types, there's a certain sort of psychological profile, and it is quite often that performers are quite often shy. I bet every single person who's ever done this podcast with you who is a performer and a comedian, there will be a moment where they first made people laugh. I don't mean just their family, although that's important too, but in a sort of wider context, and they just go, "Ooh, wow," like that makes you feel good. You're sort of validated in a way that's completely beyond your expectation, and it's great. I mean, to make people laugh, what an amazing thing to be able to do. That happened. Same for me, and I kind of went, and then when I went to university, again, I did an academic degree. I didn't do a performing degree or anything like that. Ended up getting a history degree, but during that time, then started to do performing as well. And then pretty soon after that, in fact, immediately after that, instead of doing, I don't know what else I could have done really, but instead of doing any of that, I took myself off to Paris to study under Philippe Gaulier, who was himself, had been an absolutely brilliant clown and then was really a theatre teacher by that stage. During that time, I'd met a guy called Hamish McColl, and we came back, and God knows why. I mean, it's an insane thing to do. We set up a theatre company, you know.
Because you were young and impetuous. I did
That's
exactly
right.
the same thing. Well, not a theatre company, but Morris Meyer and the Majors and then the Calypso Twins. Because it's just like you are impetuous and you're brave as well, aren't you? When you're younger, you're even more, you have the bravery of just go, why not?
And the other thing as well, although, you know, I tend to have worked in theatre, which is an amazing art form and an absolutely incredible art form, and brilliant, of course, for comedy when you get it right. Because what is better than live performance and having people laugh? I mean, I don't think there is anything better. I just don't. You know, but I mean, films are great, of course they are, but the performers aren't there. They're not right there in front of you and interacting with how you're feeding back to them. So there's something really special about that, and that's why I love making theatre comedy.
I mean, I'm presuming that you saw a kindred spirit in Hamish McColl when you were together, and was
Yes.
that the impetus to be brave?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like anybody you meet, you know, creatively, that you feel you can get on with. It's kind of inexplicable, but you do bump into these people, and then we definitely then shaped each other and shaped a way of approaching making comedy and making the sorts of shows that we made.
It's interesting because obviously having been in a double act for many years with Ainsley Harriott, the Calypso Twins, I have a theory about double acts that the audience, the good double acts, the audience have to believe that there is a love there between the two people. Do you think that's true?
I think that is true. Yeah, I think if you think of any great double act, that's completely true. And in fact, you know, when that, as it does, you know, there's always a mallet in the wings somewhere with a double act, and you know, figuratively or really. You know, and we got to the stage where we basically bust up and couldn't work together any longer. But we'd done a long time together, and you know, didn't see each other for a bit. Now the best of pals, absolutely. You know, you couldn't put a fag paper between us just because of that intense relationship that you have when you create work and are a double act. That's great. But yeah, it's palpable. I'm sure. You know, two guys walk on stage, and there's a lot in classic double act stuff, which is basically them quote unquote hating each other, getting irritated by each other, hitting each other. All of those things, and it sort of becomes a proxy in a way for everybody's, you know, intense relationships, whether that be boss and your master servant, boss and employee, man and wife. You know, all of these sort of the big intense duos that you might have, you can sort of see in a double act. You know, you can see through in a double act and how they react together. But it wouldn't work, and it doesn't work. In fact, you know, double acts that break up, they just can't do it anymore because they've probably gone from love-hate to hate. But there does need to be the love there. There's no question about that. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's also fear there, the fear and hate as well, because the fear that you can't do it without the person because you become so intertwined. The hate maybe is stemmed from some kind of fear of breaking up, and then what will each person do? But I'm interested that you and Hamish had a period of, you know, being sort of away from each other. I think that's just to establish being your own person again, isn't it?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's when he's a film writer now, and you know, really successful film writer, and I'm a director mainly.
I absolutely adored the play What I Wrote, which is a loving tribute to Morecambe and Wise, if you like, and and that became a huge success. What was it about their comedy that made them such an enduring influence, if you like, on your work?
Well, they were really not the totally last version, but pretty much the last version of a sort of classic. In America, you'd say vaudeville. Here, we'd say musical, which became variety, which then moved to the television, as it did in America. But you didn't really get those types of acts. It's a very specific thing. They'd absolutely grown up on the halls, as they say, but, doing it live in front of people, honing their craft. And they had a very kind of sort of not exactly unique, because they were they were a double act, but they also they'd sort of made it much more characterful, and that was partly the writing influence of Eddie Braben as well. Is that they'd made it much more characterful. You felt like you knew them as characters, and in fact they had every week on their TV program a sort of extended sketch where they were at home, where you sort of believed, you were made to believe, like Laurel and Hardy, that they lived in the same place, they
slept in the same bed.
Slept in the same bed. It was sort of innocent, crazy as well. But I think what I absolutely, one, Eric Morecambe was, they were a double act, they were together, they were a star together, but Eric Morecambe was really genuinely just one of the funniest comedians ever, certainly, obviously, when I was growing up. But the craft of it was so amazing that, things that I only realized later, the craft of it, like, well, people would say to Eric, it's absolutely amazing, all your improvised one-liners, you always come up with. And he said, they get better and better the more I rehearse them.
Well, I'm fascinated by the whole process, obviously, coming from comedy, and this is the Humourology podcast. How much of what you are doing is recognizing the people who have the inherent funny bones, for want of a better phrase, and then, because there are lots of people, when you go to not your plays but other plays, you see people who don't get the beats of the laugh. So the play what I wrote was directed, I think, by Sir Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah. Wonder what happened to him.
He'll never get anywhere, to be honest.
It's sad, really. But anyway, Ken. That was a really, again, as it turned out, more than fortuitous meeting, because the producer of that show, David Pugh, said, we were completely unknown. We were a fringe act, so we were trying to do this show in the West End with, even though it was sort of quote unquote about Morecambe Wise, that would have got us about, half an audience on the Monday night, without the other elements that we were able to add. And remember, David Pugh came to us and said, I've got this meeting with Kenneth Branagh to direct it. And we honestly went, oh, God. Oh, no. Do we have to? Do we have to meet this guy? This sounds like a disaster. What are we going to be doing? Sort of wandering around holding skulls, going, in black tights. But honestly, we met Ken, and it was he was a massive fan of Morecambe and Wise, but that doesn't mean anything really. But he had, and still has, an innate understanding of comedy. In fact, I think he's absolutely he's amazing at a lot of things. He really is, and he's an amazing dramatic actor. But I personally think he might even be a better comic actor.
Do you think that comedy can be learnt, or is it inherent?
I hope
Because
so, Paul, because I'm going on a course fairly soon.
oh yes.
Oh, there's no question.
um, no, but it's a serious. And talking and knowing hundreds of comedians, I think you either hear the beats in your head or you
Yeah,
don't hear the
I
beats in
agree.
your head.
Because particularly, when I got to start directing, I've been incredibly lucky as well. Managed to, in the main, get people who can do it. But sometimes you're beguiled by, oh, well, they're a terrific actor. They're brilliant, and then you get slightly stuck when you go, well, they can't hear the beat, and I can't. I mean, I can give them the beat, but the beat's going to change.
Yeah, dependent on the audience.
Depending
and
on
the
what the
feedback.
other person is doing and the audience feedback and when you've got to come in and when you've got to hang back and all of those things and how loud it's got to be. You can suddenly make it louder because you've got to go get the attention back or whatever it is, or and some people just don't understand it. It's literally another language.
Because we're talking about the world of theatre, what people who don't work in the theatre, what can they take away from it? So if you've got to get up and make a wedding speech, or you've got to stand up in front of your audience at work and do something, as a great comedic director, what would you say are the most valuable things that they could take away from this?
Oh my God.
I'd like it pithy and quick as well, if that's all right.
Well, that's what they got to do. Pithy and quick.
There you go.
Don't outstay your welcome. Is one thing. You've got to, focus on what you've got to say. I mean, if you do want to make it funny, make sure one of the first things you say is funny. I know, because that'll win people over. Confidence is essentially the main ingredient. I don't know how people get that if they're not used to it. But one of the things you can do is speak much louder and more slowly than you would ever think.
Brilliant piece of advice.
And that will completely focus people on you.
Do you remember the Michael Caine quote? Do you remember when he was training theatre actors to do film? There's that.
Yes.
And I just remembered one of the things he said was, powerful people speak slowly because they expect to be listened to. But I also think that maybe comedic people speak slowly because they've got the confidence that you're going to listen to the end of the sentence.
That's right. I agree. And if you look at someone like politically, who's a master of that, I think was Barack Obama, who would literally wait between individual words. And you sort of think oh my God, he's coming up with the most amazing, he's saying the most incredible things. I mean, quite often he was, but his style of delivery made you think that anyway. There was an importance to what he was delivering that came through the rhythm and cadence of it and actually slowing everything down.
It's really interesting because, I mean, he is a personal hero of mine, not just politically, but because of the way he delivers speech. Because I think he has that ability to do everything right. The words are right, but they're married to the way they're delivered, but also the whole body language.
Yeah.
So everything flows together. And it's that perfect sequence of things that you just go, oh my God. And the mellifluous tone as well, actually, which is, I just think, do you think now that to be successful in politics, you have to actually have some level of charisma as well.
I don't know about that. Maybe you do. I mean, I don't think, like, for instance, our current Prime Minister in the UK, Keir Starmer, I don't think really does have a lot of charisma.
No.
Not really. But he's very successful. I mean, whether you like it or not, he's obviously very successful. He's become Prime Minister in a landslide general election, but his MO, as it were, is sort of almost the opposite. Is almost the thing, I'm going to be really boring and competent, is his offer.
Which is not a bad offer.
That's not to say he's just not I don't think he's a completely natural speaker, though he sort of, because he was a barrister, he can sort of do it brilliantly in another way, which is being incredibly, immensely articulate, and he knows how to put together an argument, basically. So he's that's just another way to go, isn't it? He's not particularly funny.
Whereas but he can deliver a line.
I think Barack Obama could actually, it's a good point. If you've got his address, could I get it? Because he might be able to. Does he want to make a West End debut? That's all I'm saying. I think it could be funny.
Can you be a great communicator generally without humour? I mean, because the reason I'm thinking about this is because I've been called on a lot recently to do body language and speech patterns for, various media outlets. And they're constantly calling me about Trump. And everybody says, well, he doesn't have a sense of humor. He thinks he does have the greatest sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he does, yeah. But that's because he thinks he's the greatest at everything.
That's true. But
the absolute, it is a really remarkable example of the absolute lack of a sense of humor, which, for me, a sense of humor always implies an element of self-reflection or reflection on, without being too highfalutin, humanity. That's what it is. That's what laughter is. That's why I will go to my grave, saying that comedy is a more sophisticated art form than tragedy. And I'll tell you why, because comedy contains tragedy, but tragedy doesn't contain comedy. If you say, you go, all the greatest comedy, all the greatest comedy somehow, even really daft gags, even walking into a door, slipping over on banana skin, actually contain the idea that humanity is useless. And so it's sort of still there, that grain of sort of weird absolute truth about our condition is in even the daftest gags,
Well, I like the humanity and humility, which are probably born of the same thing as humor, because they're probably in the same linguistic realm. But I'm just thinking, I just remember I was doing something for Sky News and I was watching it live while Trump had to. He goes, he's not a great comedian. He's a two-bit comedian. And the first thing he does is try to belittle him by doing a joke and a put down. If you remember, he goes, nice to see you that you dressed for the occasion.
Yeah.
And the joke dies on its ass because it's not funny. And also it's just rude.
Yeah.
But he still
not a joke.
There is that. Yeah, you make a valid point. But some people find him amusing, don't they? The same way they find the school bully amusing.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's what is indicative is that, people of that type throughout history and politics actually actively want to stop jokes because somewhere they know there's a joke going on about them.
Yeah.
And that they cannot have. So that's throughout history. They don't, and they try to take over the culture. It's happening with the Arts Centre in Washington, is that they try to take over the culture and determine what everybody should be doing. That is, in a way, that's more worrying. I mean, I would be more worried if I was in America that with that than sort of a lot of the more, I don't know, economic stuff, which is worrying. Don't get me wrong, but I would, that's truly worrying that your head of state now is installed himself as the arbiter of what goes on in an arts centre. That is really quite terrifying.
But it's all totalitarian regimes have always been thus, haven't they?
Yes.
The first thing you do is, I mean, if in South Africa under apartheid, theatre was all but banned and comedy was non-existent, and they had to do it in little cellars, away from the thing, at risk of being arrested and thrown into jail.
Yeah, and something I didn't know until relatively recently is that there was a time when Molière was running his place. Again, he had his own company, and he'd been a favourite of the king. And then there was a particular archbishop. He was kind of Racine was behind it as well. Who was the great tragedian, the great tragic writer. They basically thought it was disgraceful and disgusting to have laughter, and they banned comedy from the stages of Paris for a period of 2 or 3 years. And imagine that. And that's a sort of weird totalitarianism.
But what it does, and humor is power, because it can prick the bubble of pomposity, can't it?
Yeah.
So it's hard to put yourself up there and then somebody can easily come with a quip and go, no, you're no better than everybody else. Well,
Yeah.
If you're totalitarian and you want to control everything, that's got to be your Achilles heel.
We can't have jokes.
No.
I mean, you can't have jokes. You can't laugh. You can't laugh at me or what I'm doing, or in a wider context, you can't laugh at my particular version of God. You can't laugh at it. You can't laugh at those things. Well, maybe we can. I mean, it's such a stupid position, isn't it?
Well, by the way, the argument would be, but didn't God give us laughter as a mechanism for dealing with traumatic situations?
Well, I'm afraid you say that, Paul, but you must die.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that.
We've all had traumatic situations. Do you think that humor is important in dealing with trauma generally?
Yeah, it definitely seems to be. I mean, I think one of the, I'll put it this way, I think one of the most highly developed senses of comedy and humor that I know is the one in Irish culture, which is incredibly black. I mean, Samuel Beckett is really hilarious, I think. I mean, a lot of people go, it's sort of unbelievably tragic. And well, it is, but it's also incredibly funny. I mean, his plays are really funny. His favourite actor was Buster Keaton. Look at the two tramps in Waiting for Godot. There's a series of gags. It's all the same. In Ireland, it's all the same. It's like, it is both tragic and funny at the same time. So there's an incredibly highly developed sense of black comedy in the entire culture, and I love that. And but I also love UK sense of humor, which I think is brilliant. I love American sense of humor as well. I mean, particularly coming out of that real Jewish wisecrack kind of humor as well. That's amazing. UK English humor has a bit more of that sort of, a lot more to do with class and a lot more sort of surrealism in it. It's like you say, the sort of Python and Spike Milligan and those kind of roots, and we like that kind of thing as well. And again, a highly developed sense of humor across the board in our country, which is great.
No, I think that's the fact that you can take something dark and make light of it is one of the most important things for the human condition, I would say.
Yeah, imagine if you couldn't.
I think that's what therapy is, to be honest with you, is being able to laugh at the situation. I mean, we've had lots of very interesting people on things, but John Sweeney, who had been in 26 war zones and is actually currently in Kyiv at the moment, reporting from there. And he talks about being literally about to be shot and seeing the funny side of it.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't. I don't think you could exist without that. It's a release valve, and it's a distancing kind of mechanism.
Well, yeah, and I suppose that one of those things is that things that people are scared of is where some of the best comedy is.
Yeah, I mean that's the classic old thing, isn't it? That the two most fit subjects for comedy are sex and death. It's kind of the taboos.
Comedy's subverting the norm, isn't it, really? Comedy naturally gives you a different perspective on something.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's why people like Donald Trump. He's incapable of another perspective. So he's actually incapable of comedy, in a sense of comedy, because he doesn't believe, because he's such a narcissist that there's only him. So you can't see it from over here or over here, or from the other person's point of view.
Which is psychopathy in that sense, because you never get out of first position. In psychology, first position through your own eyes, second position through somebody else's eyes, third position is the meta position where you look at it in the round. But psychopathy is when you never get out of first position. And that's really interesting in that sense, that you do need to see it from a different perspective in order to make it funny.
Yes.
You've spent your life around successful people in all walks of life, but especially the theatre. What's that special sauce that makes them successful? And is humour an important ingredient in that?
Well, for some people it isn't, I guess, but I would say, or maybe just say, people that I'm kind of drawn to and like working with. Obviously, they've got to have a sense of humour. That's what, and that is sort of, I think, part of their own success. I don't think there are lots of people who do take themselves too seriously in every walk of life, including showbiz, theatre, whatever we want to call it. But they're not much fun to work with.
Well, but isn't that just life? I mean, if whatever business you work in, you want to have people you like and you trust and you can laugh with around you, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure in every business, in every part of life, it just makes it. It's a kind of what was it? Irene Handel said. She said, "Laughter is the champagne of life." And who doesn't want a bit of champagne in every situation if you can get it, and it wouldn't make you drunk and not a hangover? So it's sort of. It's a lubricant. It's a sort of social lubricant, It's not alcohol, but it is a social lubricant.
Absolutely. And, it's a door opener as well, isn't it? It's come into my life, basically, because you can laugh together, you can live together.
Yeah. Was that fantastic old Max Miller joke about door opening in showbiz. You know it?
No.
It's, showbiz, he said, showbiz, it's a wonderful business. It's a wonderful business because, you know, once one door shuts, they all shut.
Well, you're managing to open lots of doors to laughter, for me, which I've never heard that, Max Miller. You've created a new company with Chloe Naldred called
Yes.
Sustainable Entertainment.
Yes.
What's the ethos of that, and why is it going to be so important to the future of theatre?
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, it's called Sustainable Entertainment. If you look at those two words, let's take the entertainment bit first, which is entertainment. So we're going to be making shows that are funny and entertaining, sort of work that I've been involved with for a long time. And the sustainable bit is that we're going to be creating them, you know, the production of them is going to be more sustainable. So there is in every endeavor, in every business, particularly in this country, you know, our country has a goal for net zero for 2050. That implies that every industry, including the theatre industry, you know, needs to start making changes to transition our economy to net zero, to transition it to a more green way of doing it, for want of a better phrase, given the fact that everybody now, I think, understands that there is a climate crisis that has been man-made and is to some extent reversible if we take the right steps. So in a small way, our company, which is in fact the first independent commercial theatre company to sort of declare or that we're going to make shows in this way, is you know, we're starting now. Basically, we're starting now to help make that contribution to our industry, and also when we work with other people, because we'll be co-producing with a lot of people, we can have that discussion with them and why we're making it in this way. And it doesn't make any difference to what the audience get, because what the audience get is going to be the great shows that they want to get, watching, you know, the amazing actors they want to get. But afterwards, they might go, oh, and do you know what? That show was apparently made in a way that is less harmful to our environment. And that's a positive thing all round. So that's the new company. And we are, like I say, we'll have something on stage later this year.
It's fantastic, because I think it's exactly what the theatre business needs, and I think you're at the forefront and doing really, really valuable work. So I hope that sustainable.
Well, we hope that. I mean, it's one of the few businesses that, you know, in a sense, we'd be happy to put ourselves out of business if everybody was doing it. So what one of the part of our endeavour is to help our industry recognise that it can make a contribution towards getting to net zero, and we should start doing it now, because in many ways it is a progressive industry. You know, the creative industries have been and can be progressive, but curiously, commercial theatre is behind TV and film, for example. You know, that has its own regulatory bodies, that has its own way of quantifying carbon footprint for the productions it makes, but not commercial theatre, which is kind of it's the Wild West, really, you know, West End and commercial theatre. And so it's sort of it just hasn't started to get to grips with how to do it yet. But we, Chloe and I, are trailblazers. So we're going to help everybody as well as putting on our own shows.
We were talking about Shakespeare before, and it just popped into my mind that the Shakespeare quote, "A fool thinks himself to be wise, but a wise man knows he is a fool." Does that resonate?
I don't know what you mean.
I'll get my coat. Yeah,
What are you implying, Paul?
No,
He
well,
thinks I'm an idiot.
So you've worked with some extraordinary people. You've just recently done Dr. Strangelove with Armando Iannucci and Steve Coogan. Uh, those are two of our finest comedy brains and everything. But they understand that quote, don't they?
Yes, I don't know if they've heard of it, but I mean, no, yeah, of course they understand it. I don't think you can be in comedy, particularly not for very long, but because it's so. I mean, the other thing about it is it's so granular. I mean, it's so you even if you're really experienced, you're not going to get everything right. Certainly not first time. So there's a process. There's like editing and rewriting and how do I perform it and change the performance and so there's everybody knows that they're engaged in something that's a sort of a merry tussle with the material to get what you need to get to the audience. The greatest harbinger of a bad comedy performance is a good comedy performance the night before.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes.
Because unfortunately you can't rock up going, I've got this taped.
Yeah.
They loved me last night. You just have to do it again because it's the minute changes in the audience themselves and you and the material. That's always going to be part of on stage. That's just always going to be part in there in the mix. So it teaches you to be humble before the god of comedy.
No, I think that's fascinating that, because people will listen to this and think, when you get to that level, that Amanda and Steve are at, but a comedy will always come and chop your legs off at some stage. So you have to have humility around it, don't you? Because it's bigger, it's a bigger thing.
Yeah, and just go, well, that didn't work. What are we going to do? We're going to cut it, make it better, try it a different way, and that's where the sort of fascination of how to create and mold, direct, like a whole performance, whole show comes in, because that's that's your time in the theatre. That's your time in preview. If you're making a film, you'd be in the edit. You'd sort of be doing it yourself, probably a producer, your editor for sure, sort of trying to play with all the elements to get them just right, to get the most out of the material.
Is humor therefore a superpower? Because we talked about it earlier on as it's not a gift that's given to anybody, but is it ultimately the ultimate superpower?
I don't know if it's the ultimate one, but it's definitely a superpower. I think it's definitely a superpower. Yeah. I think if you can make people laugh, they are going to like you.
But do you think it's just as clear as that? I mean, is that why we love people who can make us laugh so much? Because it's such a rarity.
Yeah. I once saw this absolutely brilliant, I thought, it was an interview or maybe a full documentary with Jim Carrey. And Jim Carrey, obviously, incredible comedian. And he said when he was younger, he just knew that he wanted to be a comedian. He started doing all these stand-up things, and he used to go to sleep every night going, "Oh God, what is it? What is it they want? What is it they want? I know what I want. I want to be a famous comedian." Basically, he was that clear for himself. What is it they want? And then he said, then he finally realizes that they want me to be free. It's an absolutely brilliant thing to say. Is that why we love comedians? I think is that they are, whether it's a very measured thing and they've really worked it out, whatever, it doesn't matter. But they are how they present is free, freedom of thought, freedom of movement, freedom of just free. And that is so magnetic for everyone because not everybody can be free. I want to come and see somebody who can just go, fuck it. It's a very profound connection with comedians, I think, and why we like comics and need them and need comedy is that, you know, we need someone to help us, make us, going back to some of the other stuff we said, you know, help us make us laugh at death, help us make us laugh at sex, help us make us laugh at relationships, help us make us laugh at, you know, the thing to let the genie out of the bottle.
Yeah.
Help us let the genie out of the bottle, and we don't need to be, I don't know, as afraid of those things or worried about those things, or you know, political comedy does that. That's a more obvious thing where you can see it happening, of course, in the States at the moment. All the very brilliant, in fact, you know, late night kind of presenters do whole reams of material taking down Trump, but it's not only funny, but it's necessary.
No, I love the idea of that the freedom that the audience is perhaps living vicariously through the freedom that the comedian has. And as a psychologist, I'm fascinated because I always say, if you want anyone to go into any state, you need to go into that state first.
Yeah.
And so the comedian is going into that state and everybody's going, oh gosh, I can go in with them. And for a moment, I am free.
Yes, I think that's definitely it. And if you look at another person I was very, very lucky to work with briefly, Joan Rivers, you know, I mean, so funny. But her whole shtick, of course, was, can we talk? In other words, I'm going to tell you some truths.
Yeah.
I happen to be a genius at how to frame them because she was. Yeah. But it was really about us, and in particular about women, in particular about all sorts of things. But you know, she told it like it was, but incredibly funny way. And that is. But she was a clown, actually, I think. You know,
but brilliant physically as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, she just an amazing comedian. You know, but that is a real example, I think, of somebody allowing everybody else to laugh at these things.
Yeah, it is about giving them the freedom to do it and going into that state first and going, here's where we put life's woes in perspective, if you like, and we can do it. And that's why, yeah, no, I'm coming to the conclusion, having been around comedy all my life, you're giving me new insights where I'm going, yeah, they want me to be free. Sean, the time has flown. We've got to the point in the show which we like to call quick fire questions.
Quick fire questions, okay.
You couldn't be more excited, could you?
Quick fire questions.
This is great. I've been looking forward to it. Wish you'd started with this. I mean, I really do.
Tell your face. You work in the theatre business, but who's the funniest general business person you met who's not a comedian?
Oh, okay. I guess somebody who falls into that category and equally the category of unexpectedly funny, and he is a very good businessman as well, actually, so probably qualifies, is the guy who directed the play What I Wrote, which is Sir Kenneth Branagh, who is, like I said, you know, he completely upended my idea of who he might be. He's just a very funny guy to be around, and understands comedy. So, and you know, has built quite a successful business for himself. If you want to put it in the business category.
Yeah, no, I think it's a perfect answer. And having met him, I agree. He is very, very funny and personable as well, which I suppose goes hand in hand. The funnier you are, the more personal you are perceived to be. What book makes you laugh, Sean?
Oh, no, there's lots of books that have made me laugh. I mean, I think Jane Austen is an incredibly funny writer, for example. But the person who is maybe not gag, but I mean, she's just amazing social comedy. The Irish writer Flann O'Brien, I think, is one of the very, very greatest, and I've loved reading his novels like The Third Policeman. But he wrote a column for about 20 years for the Irish Times under the pseudonym Miles Nagopoline, which means Miles of the Little Horses, by the way, and about all sorts of things. It was just a column, reflections, and they're some of the funniest things you could ever write. He's got a whole thing called the Catechism of Cliché, where I just recommend it to everyone.
Flann O'Brien.
O'Brien.
I'll put it on my list because it sounds wonderful. What film makes you laugh?
Some Like It Hot.
Oh,
I mean, that's pretty. I mean, I guess everybody says that.
No, actually, you are the first in over 100 shows to say that. Actually.
No.
Yes.
You are kidding me.
No, and it's and Jack Lemmon is absolutely exquisite in it, and Tony Curtis doesn't do a bad job either.
They're all brilliant in it. Marilyn Monroe is brilliant in it. Incredibly funny, amazing script, brilliant direction.
Who was the director? You have to remind
Billy Wilder.
Billy Wilder, of course. Oh gosh, yeah.
I mean, Billy Wilder, the best. Basically.
Well, yeah. We're going to take a quick shift to the other side. What's not funny?
Well, it's not funny what's going on in the United States at the moment. It's not funny what's going on in Palestine or Ukraine at the moment. As it were, real life is not funny. I know every stage in human history there's somebody having a very, very bad time. And we're probably unaware of that most of the time because I've certainly grown up in, relatively peaceful times for us, but it's definitely been going on elsewhere in the world. It's just not affected us. But, I don't think it's funny. I just don't think it's funny what's going on at the moment.
No, I have to agree, and it's sad, and hopefully, we can find a way through it. But I mean, we were talking earlier on about getting through it by being able to keep our sense of humor, I suppose.
Yeah. Incredibly, of course, you've got Vladimir Zelensky, who was a comedian.
I know, but he's definitely not as funny as Trump.
Oh God, who could be?
Well,
the other guy is just great. I mean, what a double act, J.D. Vance. I mean, that guy is so good.
Oh, genius!
I mean genius.
They should tour with that.
They really could. I think they have actually.
I'd like to see them tour.
Aren't you even going to say thank you? No. I mean that could be a catchphrase.
Okay, it's a good fact. Well, actually, it's a sitcom, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Every leader that you come in and you should say that to them. Aren't you going to say thank you?
Oh, God. Yeah, well, I'd like to see them on tour in South Sudan, to be honest with you. So what word makes you laugh?
Beaker.
Beaker, as in drinking?
That's a beaker, yeah. I don't know why, it's got a K sound. It's not that funny a word, but whenever I heard the word beaker, it makes me laugh.
It is, but it goes back to the Sunshine Boys, doesn't it? The K's are funny.
K's are funny.
Oh.
Taxi, cupcake.
Kettle.
It'd be better if kettle had the K sound at the end of the word, but still not bad.
It's not bad, is it? What sound makes you laugh?
Sound?
Yeah.
That wasn't on your list. I haven't even thought
I
about it.
Deliberately shoved one in just to,
Oh my
just to
God.
freak you out.
Where's the lawyers? Sound makes me laugh. I'm going to come back to that.
Okay. Well, I saw you go fart, and then you go, I can't say that in
I
your
couldn't
head.
say fart. You don't want to know what makes me laugh. What sound makes me laugh? No. Actually, people being serious does make me laugh. The sound of people being serious. I don't know why. I can't take them seriously. It's like people being too serious. It just makes me laugh. It's like, how can you say that? I mean, it all sounds so serious.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. You studied at Oxford, and I'd like to know, would you rather be considered clever or funny?
I would rather be considered funny. And I'll tell you why. It's because I think funny includes clever.
I'd have to agree, to be honest with you, because I've never met a stupid comedian. They're always intelligent on one level. And to do that kind of brain work that finds the funny, I think it requires cleverness.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't. And finally, Sean, desert island gags.
Yes.
You can only take one joke with you to a desert island. What would it be?
Well, I believe Bob Monkhouse wrote this gag. I bet this has been on this before as well. But I love the gag. He said, when I was young, I told people that when I grew up, I wanted to be a comedian. They laughed at me. Well, they're not laughing now. That amuses me every single time I say it or hear it. Sort of genius, haiku-like profundity to it. It's not haiku, it's got far too many syllables, but you know what I mean. It's sort of distilled essence of the sort of kickback of comedy. It's great.
The kickback of comedy. I love that. And do you know what else it is? It's sustainable entertainment.
It is.
Which means that you have been sustainable and highly entertaining for us today. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Humourology podcast.
Paul, I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I hope you can cobble together at least a couple of minutes out of that when you edit it.
Minute and a half should be fine.
Minute and a half, exactly.
It was brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Thank you. The Humourology podcast was hosted by Paul Barros. Produced by David Rose. Music by Steve Hayworth. Creative direction by Les Hughes. And additional research by Helen Sykes. Please remember to subscribe, like, and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. This has been a Big Sky production.